Riders fans, I just got inspired. I finished a 10-mile run and my 50-year-old dog, she's 7 years old, she's got cancer and she's a savage. She ran hard the entire time and it got me thinking, and I figured I wanted to say that I highly recommend Arenacross. Highly recommend Arenacross. They are shaking things up just as much as Feld and MX Sports is doing with the whole super motocross deal. However, this is just a little bit different sort of a tune for it. What is super cool about the Arenacross series is the format. They have 4 heat races that the top 2 go straight onto the main. And then they've got 2 semis where only one guy goes to the main. And then they've got 2 LCQs where only one guy goes to the main. And each of them are 10 laps. Then they've got 2 main events. One main event is about 16 laps, and the last main event is 20 laps. And what's cool is however you finish in the first main event, it's reversed for gate pick. So if you win, then all of a sudden you get last gate pick. And there's 12 riders that get to participate in the main events. So the top 6 are on the front row, and then the latter 6 are on the back row. And it's constantly mixed up. The other really interesting thing about Arenacross, which I like, is it's just an open class. There is no 250 and 450 class. Like this last weekend in Prescott, it's actually called Prescott, not Prescott. If you watched Grant Langston and Buddy Antunez, love you guys to death. You're not from Prescott. You could always tell outsiders because they say Prescott, you know. But anyway, I'm digressing. They did a wonderful job with commenting. Oakland was canceled, so a lot of them went to the Arenacross because double the purse. They could make $2,500 a main event, which is really hard because one main event you could win, the second one you're on the back row, it's hard to win. Truthfully, it's not that much money. I'll show the purse up here, and I think 12th place gets like $100. You know, it's actually pretty pitiful. I guess I will be somewhat negative when it comes to the purse because, you know, again, you're sort of risking your life for hardly any type of a payment or salary, but it's cool that they disclose everything right up there when you're going to sign up. It would just be awesome for promoters to even know that the Arenacross is around $30 to $50 per ticket. If 1%, some sort of percentage goes to the purse, I think it would considerably help the riders and you'd have just as strong of a turnout as you did this last weekend. Not to take away anything from them, because when the new series bought out the old Kicker Arenacross and they're turning it back into somewhat of what the Amsoil Arenacross used to be with big whoops and big sections, there's a lot going for it, which I really like. They've got a 1v1 scenario where you literally, they understand social media where, hey, you get to vote who you want to see in a dash for cash kind of a scenario, and it's $1,000 to win. There is no bonus point or anything, but it's a cool take. This is completely different than World Supercross, where they've got the Super Pole where you get 1 extra point. I mean, I do like that format, but this 1v1 is a mashup of what Dash for Cash used to be and getting people involved, which I love. I absolutely freaking love. But back to what I was saying about the 450s and 250s and 125s, you could race whatever you want as long as it's not like an 85. But Cade Clayson was the fastest qualifier, and I believe he was one of the only guys on a 450. You had Jared Lesher, who, shout out to him for winning one of the semis on a 250 two-stroke. And the starts are so incredibly important in those Arenacrosses because it's about 20, 30-second lap times, if that. And there's not that much mix up as lines because you can either haul ass around a berm or kind of go on the inside. They did have a couple different scenarios where guys could go to the inside and roll double, triple out of the whoops, or they could just rail the outside and just blitz them. The whoops look like they got super scary later on because there's so much racing going on the track. And in the back section, you could either go step on, step off, triple in the corner, or you could go step over, triple, single, which they ended up being relatively the same speed, which I like, but it prevented people from following, especially on a track that is that small. It made for some good racing. I highly enjoyed it, and I have to say really good things about Rider TV because as opposed to Peacock, nothing paused, nothing weird. It was easy to Chromecast it live to my television and pause, and it was awesome. And it was half as much as what Peacock is. You know, it was like $5.99, so it's about 60% of what Peacock is, as opposed to $9.99. But they did a really, really good job. Yes, the Arenacross is on MAV TV, which there has been some not the best PR with MAV TV and Flow Motorsports. They do a lot of different racing. Like I was over at a buddy's house last night watching the Chili Bowl, and Flow Motorsports did a really good job presenting everything. I don't know why it was so hard for MAV TV and maybe the community. Maybe there was something weird there. Maybe there's just more people watching motocross, so they just couldn't handle the bandwidth. However, when it came to Arenacross, it was really, really well done. And I enjoyed the broadcast, and I enjoyed the racing. I enjoyed the creativity of the track design. I enjoyed how they presented it and how it kept mixing it up, where there was always some sort of action happening fast. And I really have to say good things about the race director as well, because Stank Dog got involved with Clayson. Yeah, they had a tit for tat kind of a scenario, and Stank Dog ended up winning the scenario, but he got DQ'd because he did T-bone Clayson, who's a big dude, and put him over the bars, and it looked rather terrifying how he crashed. But I give it up to the race director for DQing Stank Dog, where in Supercross with Barsha and Anderson and Stewart, and you know, there's so much Ferrandis, there's all this stuff that has happened. Vince Freeze, where nobody really takes a hard stance, like we'll put you on probation, it's a warning, but then it happens again and again and again, right? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, and if you're not going to lay down the law, well, you're going to continue to see shit happen. And in Arenacross, where really the only passing that can be made is A, if you get a good start, or B, you pretty much block pass somebody. Those are the only two. So you're asking for aggressive riding. So it's even more important for the race director to be able to take a stance as like, hey guys, we understand, you know, rubbing is racing. However, we have to do it in a manner that keeps both of you safe. Yeah, I know that's kind of contradictory because this is a dangerous sport. However, it is mentally putting it in the rider's minds that, hey, there is some things are okay, other things are not. And for that, I have to commend the series. I'm tuning in. And I'm just going to get a little bit into the racing action. Supercross guys that came over. The most notable ones are Clayson, you've got Woodcock, Stank Dog, Politelli, Jerry Robin, Lesher, Wageman, Harrison. There's so many guys that showed up to race. However, you've got Kyle Peters, who's the defending champ. He kind of showed up. He ended up finishing third overall because he won the first one and then didn't do that well in the second one because he got in the mix-up with another rider, Ray. And that's how it happens when you start on the back row. I know that in our shit show last Friday, we were arguing about, hey, maybe you should do a random gate pick kind of a thing to mix it up for the riders, to make it more interesting so that you had to see people's racecraft on how they could come through the pack. I think it was very interesting. And if I'm going to bring any other forms of racing in here, like watching the midget racing at the Chili Bowl, they had, if guys didn't qualify well, they started off in like a Z main event, and then if they made it up to 5th place, then they started on the back row for the next main event, and then they had to continue to do it to all the way get up to the A main event. So they had like an extra chance to make it happen, and it made it interesting. It made it interesting. You started rooting for these guys coming through the back of the field. I liked it. The bracket racing was an interesting take on racing that I haven't really been exposed to that often. With all that being said, Arenacross is badass. These guys proved that just because you're a Supercross rider doesn't mean it's going to be easy in Arenacross. They didn't blow the doors off of anybody. Yeah, Politelli ended up getting the overall with being on the podium in both main events, which is incredibly difficult to do. His heat races weren't that good, but he made it happen in the main events. However, the Arenacross guys sure held their own. The last thing I'll say about Arenacross is their format, where they've got Friday night is pro racing, Saturday and Sunday they're splitting it into an all-weekend affair for the amateurs. So you've got Saturday and Sunday to do all of those crazy classes. Because if you've been to any Arenacross before, man, you show up at 5 a.m., the mains are at 7. It's an all-day deal. It's very taxing. So spreading it out over 2 days is smart, is absolutely smart. And having the pros on Friday night, I think is smart. It's a perfect date night type scenario. I love it. Absolutely freaking love it. They're on to something special. And a good segue is make sure that you stay tuned for Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, because we've got episode 3 of the Shit Show where we have a new guest every weekend and we talk constructively about the sport. And if you guys enjoy this type of content, make sure that you stick around and subscribe. We're going places and it's part of the community for you guys. Till next time, this is Johnny F. and Hopper. Keep it WFO. Bra da da da.